is not constrained in any way by the jury's conclusions. The House will understand that I cannot comment in detail on matters that may lead to a criminal investigation. I can, however, say that the offences under investigation include gross negligence manslaughter, misconduct in public office, perverting the course of justice and perjury, as well as offences under the Safety of Sports Grounds Act 1975 and the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. I know that those responsible for the police and IPCC investigations anticipate that they will conclude the criminal investigations by the turn of the year.
Brian Peed wrote a book on the entire history of Liverpool Football Club. Well, here we are outside Southwark Crown Court, and this is where Brian Peed's trial happened. Going back to Brian's story, his friend Geoffrey Bacon in his statement said, "On the night of the 15th May 2008, Brian came to my house and we went to the internet together on my computer, that is, Geoffrey's computer. Brian did not have the internet as he had given it up, as well as his BT landline. During our time online, Brian and I were having normal conversations with one or two people. At one time during that evening, Brian received an instant message from somebody claiming to be a 14-year-old. Brian was at the computer and I was sitting on my bed drinking a cup of tea. After about 10 minutes, Brian turned to me and said, 'I've been contacted by someone claiming to be 14. It clearly isn't a 14-year-old, but she, if it is a she, came into an adult chat room and claimed to be after money. Let's string her along and have a laugh.' After a few messages, Brian then turned to me and said, 'This is clearly not a 14-year-old sending these messages, but an adult.' I asked him what made him think this, and he replied, 'Because the profile is clearly fake. It's just a photograph with no text, and because of the language the person is using.' He then said to me, 'This weirdo can then just F off, pretending to be 14 and pretending to be after money for sex.' After a couple more minutes, Brian logged off MSN saying to me, 'I've had enough. I don't want to use this anymore.'" Okay, so these are two copies of a search warrant issued at the friend's address of Brian Peed's friends, where the computer he used he had a conversation with a supposed 14-year-old girl acted by an undercover police officer over the internet. Now you notice here that executed is handwritten across each copy. There are 3 carbonated sheets. One goes to the court, one stays with the police, and one stays with the occupier. Nature of carbon paper is whatever's written over the top should come through exactly the same. It should be the same size, and the handwriting should be the same. Now that isn't the case here, because you'll see that the D of executed on the occupier copy is 6mm wide, and it's over the word gravelwood. On this copy, it's well above the word gravelwood, close, and it's 9mm wide, so it's significantly bigger. Another interesting feature is there are 2 line spaces between the second and third paragraph on this particular copy, and yet strangely enough there's only 1 line space between the second and third paragraph on the occupier copy. Notice also that if we put the E's of executed together, one is like a half moon and one is much squarer. So something is a bit strange here. Here is a paper customer book with carbon copy paper. This is carbon paper in blue. If I write on the paper over the carbon paper, it's just under a centimetre, 9mm. And 9mm again. The judge in the Southwark trial made mention of the conversation on the 15th May 2008 over the internet that Brian had at the house of his friend Geoffrey Bacon. Lorraine Smith was keen to tell the jury that there was no evidence that this conversation had been found. Yet it had. Brian had told both his solicitor and the barrister. Neither had informed the judge, yet the judge failed to order Geoffrey Bacon be called as a witness. Given that he had mentioned Bacon, it is an appalling indictment of British justice that Lorraine Smith failed to call Geoffrey Bacon. He knew that had the builder been called as a witness, Brian Peed could not have been possibly found guilty. As the day drew to a close, Lorraine Smith said, "Half an hour, I think, I will give you, and I will send you away, assuming you have not reached verdicts by then. Two things I have no doubt you have heard about majority verdicts and majority directions. Put those out of your minds. My direction to you now is to reach verdicts on which you are all agreed, unanimous verdicts. If there comes a time when I can accept a verdict which is not the verdict of all of you, I will have you back into court and I will give you a direction in law, but my direction to you now is to reach verdicts upon which you are all agreed." The jury retired to consider their verdicts at 3:46 p.m. The authors refer once again to Archbold on retirement of the jury 4/501. It is undesirable that the jury should be sent out after 3 p.m, yet another flagrant breach of protocol. Also, one of the witness statements in the alleged exposure case was completely unsigned and no witness signature on it, so it was inadmissible as evidence. This was Thomas Milner. An investigation into the possible misappropriation of the morphine at the hospital where Janet Brooks's father was supposed to have happened by the South Yorkshire police, but this has come to nothing.
A 10-year-old boy is dead. His grieving father makes a pledge.
I stood over Robbie's deathbed and promised to him that I will find out what went wrong.
The boy had a rare but treatable disease. His anxious parents claim doctors missed 9 chances to save him.
What they've put us through for 13 years, I just can't accept it.
It took the couple years to find out why some of the doctors failed their son.
Negligent.
The family also claim these doctors forged documents to cover up their neglect. Police have also been severely reprimanded.
Every mistake that could have been made seems to have been made in the case.
Investigators branded the force responsible for policing half of Wales institutionally incompetent.
They had failed and they knew it to investigate Robbie's death properly.
Tonight, the story of an ordinary Welsh father who's shaken the British establishment to the core.